Hey guys, my name is Moon and welcome back for more Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 7, Minagoroshi. So last episode, it was pretty much the start of Rika's last day, right, on this world. And she doesn't even know what to do anymore because if she goes to school, does her homework, is it even worth it to do, right? Because, yes, she was going anyway, or she was gonna die anyway, right? So she was thinking, why would I do it, right? So she decided to stay at home. But yeah, the mountain dogs called her, checking on her because she didn't go to school, right? And now Rika is being like super suspicious now. Like, why are they calling me, etc., etc., this, right? And then she's seeing some connections from Takano, Irie, Tomitake, Tokyo, right? She also called Uishi for help because, yes, someone is gonna kill her, as the mountain dogs told her, right? So the mountain dogs were also spying on her. They bugged her phone, so they heard all of that conversation, right? So they had a plan, or they have a plan, I mean, to, I guess, get Rika, and then by the next day, people will find her dead, basically, right? So yeah, Rika's still at home, don't know who to trust anymore. And let's see what happens, right? Let us see what happens in today's episode. I was left with nothing else to do after washing the dishes and cleaning the room. The mountain dogs and the police were protecting me. Just in case, I figured I should leave something behind for Satoko. Should I write down some recipes for her in the notebook? Will she be happy if I leave a will for her? A will? What, you gonna leave the storage house for her? I laughed at my own foolishness. No one would be happy to read a will. If I die, they'll be devastated and wonder why I didn't talk to them. Rue. That's exactly how I felt when Satoko didn't ask for any help when her uncle was abusing her. But I think that her friends will come here after school and check on her. For sure, man. Like, come on now. They care for Rika. Not just Rika, they care for each other. So they will show up here after school is over. I wonder, will I be killed before Satoko even comes home? My memories of these days are never very clear. The day I die is always vague in my recollections. It's fine if I'm murdered before Satoko gets home. But if I'm murdered after then, would they kill her along with me? I don't want that to happen. Is it bad enough already that I end up killed? If Satoko was murdered along with me each time, that would be too much to bear. Just how much have I ignored other people's sadness with that rash idea that the world ends when I die? But yeah, the world did end though, right? Not technically the world, but Hinamizawa ended on the third chapter, right? When Keiichi fell off a bridge, right? And then he went back to town. He saw Rika, right? She was dead on the shrine, right? I think, if I'm correct. With her guts out or something like that, right? And then afterwards, yeah, the town had like a major accident or something. I forgot what exactly it was, but I think it was like they found a volcano, I think, under the swamp. And yeah, like gases was released, something like that. Pretty much like poisoned everybody. And yeah, the world ended in Hinamizawa that day. Thinking about that made me feel truly ashamed of myself. But yeah, it doesn't really does it really happen every time though? I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know. I turned on the TV to try and reduce the silence, but it didn't help at all. But yeah, in the fourth chapter when Oishi was talking with what's his name? What's his name again? Akasaka. Yeah, they were talking about that, right? That something happened in Hinamizawa and it got destroyed. So I think every time it happens, like there's a big accident that happens, right? Okay, let's continue. I turned on the TV to try and reduce the silence, but it didn't help us at all. Worse, not only did the TV not help with my fears, it felt like it symbolized Hanyu and my allies, making me feel even more unpleasant. It was past lunchtime and nearly 3 p.m. School should be out soon. I'm not there today, so they probably won't do a club activity. Satoko should be home shortly. It seems I'm going to survive until she gets home after all. If she comes home and asks what's troubling me, I might end up telling her the truth. If I talk to someone, the person will be demoned away by the mountain dogs. That's why I never spoke to anyone about it. Demoned away. I didn't want my friends to get into danger. But if Satoko was also murdered likewise in every world because she was involved with me, then we're doomed to share the same fate. It's better to know the truth than to be killed without knowing what's going on. But I'm under very strict security right now. I might be able to survive in this world. If that's the case, I should talk to Satoko about it. It won't be easy to talk to my friends after all. She'd returned. It sounded like she was scared to see a stranger in our home. Yeah, because there was a cop, right? I have to tell her that the police were here. That would be tantamount to telling her that someone is out to kill me. I don't know how to explain it to her or how much I should tell her. However, my thoughts were soon interrupted by a noise or by the noise of a crowd. All of them are here now. They're friends. Satoko hadn't come home alone.
ただいまでございますのよ。それよりリカ、下のおまわりさんは何なんですの？
What's with the officer downstairs?
私服警官が護衛してるなんてどういうわけよ。あんた一体何をしでかしたの？
みーちゃん聞くこと違う。一体何があったのリカちゃん。
境内の中にも見慣れない人がいました。あれも私服警官ですか？ただごとじゃないんですけど。
俺たちリカちゃんが何を悩んでるのか知らないが、みんなで励まそうって思ってきたんだ。でもどうやらそんな悠長な事態じゃねえようだな。
I couldn't stop laughing upon seeing everyone rush into my house, all asking the same questions. It made me feel as though being depressed all day had just been a waste of time.
リカ、笑ってる場合じゃありませんでしたよ。どういうことなのか説明してくださいまし。どうもこうもないのです。今日は僕が殺される日なのです。はぁ？
Imagine hearing that, right? Everyone already knew that I'd been telling people about how I was going to die or be killed, but they were surprised to hear it from my own mouth.
なあリカちゃん、俺は確かに昨日リカちゃんから聞いた。自分は誰かに殺されるみたいな話をな。でもそれはリカちゃんの冗談みたいなもんだと思ってた。だがな、もうごまかすのはなしだぜ。話してもらうぜ。
Keiichi spoke with a harsh tone as though I'd made him upset. As my friend, he must think that it's unforgivable that I didn't talk to him about it. He wasn't the only one feeling that way though. Every single one of them was, looking at me with worried expressions on their faces.
リカ、私はみんなに助けてもらいましたの。だから私もみんなのために何かの助けをしたいんですのよ。気持ちだけで嬉しいのです。リカが自分で私に言いましたのよ。戦う勇気を持てと。あなたは自分でそう私に言っておきながら実践していないではございませんの。
Sadako pointed out something that I've realized. I had no way to argue back.
リカちゃんは話せば巻き込まれるって言ったんだよね。リカちゃんが話さなくても私たちは巻き込まれる気でいるんだよ。
そうさ。俺たちは仲間で部活のメンバーなんだよ。リカちゃんの危機はメンバー全体の危機さ。かつて聡子が危機だった時もメンバー全体の危機として戦った。それと同じだよ。
命を狙われるとか物騒な話になればますます園崎家の出番だと思いますけれど。
But yeah, a lot of people help them though, because Rika is pretty much loved by everyone, right? So if Rika asks this, the whole Sonozaki family will come here for sure.
それこそ物騒な話に及ぶなら警察より頼もしいですよ。
Yeah, technically they're not just reliable. Yeah, because they have a lot of people, right, in the Sonozaki family that they can spare. You can say like give 100 people to come here, right, and protect her. Those mountain dogs cannot come close anymore. Even if Takano said to continue the mission, they cannot do anything.
ねえおね。
And they don't want to, what do you call this, get attention, right? So they would not harm the people. Like for example, there were 100 people there and they shot at them, right? They would never want that because they would never want the attention from the officers, from the actual authorities, right? Because I guess, yeah, this is pretty much like a secret faction or something.
そうだよ。こういうことこそ相談してほしいね。何をトラブったの？リカちゃんを殺すって脅迫するなんてとんでもない野郎だよ。
まあリカちゃんの口の重さを見る限り心当たりがないのか薄いのかのどちらかだな。相手が分かってりゃ楽な話なんだからな。
みんなは鋭いので、僕が何も話さなくても勝手に話が進んでしまうのです。リカ、はぐらかさないでほしいですわよ。ちゃんとお話しなさいませ。一体何があったんですの？これはどういうことなんですの？警察が来るなんてよっぽどのことですのよ。警察には話せて、どうして私たちには話してくれませんの？私たちには話しにくい理由なの？リカに話しにくいようなやましい理由なんてあるわけありませんでしたよ。
落ち着け聡子。リカちゃんはこう見えても御三家の当主なんだぞ。お社様の生まれ変わりなんて呼ばれて年寄り連中に盲信されてるんだ。俺たちの想像のつかないところで何か厄介なことに巻き込まれていたということもあるかもしれない。そういうゴタゴタをこれからこの村で楽しく過ごしていこうっていう俺たちに話したくなかったとか、そういうのじゃないのか？
村とリカちゃまに関わるヤバい話ですか。となるとお社様を盲信する年寄り連中の絡みとしか思えません。
But yeah, then again, if I think about it, right, why does the faction from Tokyo wants to kill Rika though? What will this do? Like if she dies, what happens? Right? Like, yeah, for them, for their friends, they don't know who's doing this, right? But from us, from the players, like of course, because you see like the different sides of the stories, right? The mountain dogs talking last episode, so you know that it is them, right? But yeah, why would they want to kill Rika though? That's the thing I don't understand. Why?
ってことは時期的に考えてお社様のたたり関係か。あれだ、富武さんと高野さんが殺された件絡みじゃないかな。
どうして富武さんたちが殺された事件がリカちゃんに関連してリカちゃんが命を狙われなくちゃならないの？話が突飛すぎるよ。
命が狙われてるって時点で十分話がぶっ飛んでる。俺たちが普段知る以上のしがらみがリカちゃんにあって、 それを話せないってことなんだろうな。ビンゴだろ。あまり楽しい話じゃないから、むしろ仲間には話せないってんだろ。
信じられないですわ。本当なんですの、リカ。何か村とか富武さんたちの事件とかそういうのが関係していますの？
I remained silent, but with my mouth open. I hadn't answered any of their questions, but they continued to ask and had eventually hit the nail on the head. It was more surprising than anything. But then again, these are, after all, my beloved clubmates. I laughed once more. My issues and secrets are so devastating to me, but they stopped sounding like such a big deal when everyone talked about them together. They knew exactly what was going on without saying any word. In that moment, I realized just how powerless I am. I had to tip my hat to them. Everything seemed so foolish now. And so I decided to just tell them everything. Yes, finally.
話せと言うなら話しますです。でもどうせ信じられませんのです。
信じるさ。リカちゃんが真実を語る限り、俺たちは疑わない。
Everyone's expression turned grave as they vowed not to make light of anything I told them. And so I'm going to tell them everything. I want to see if they really will believe me or not.
なら話します。多分私は富武と高野を殺した犯人に狙われています。
ってことは、それって連続開始事件の真犯人ってこと？
それはわかりません。
But yeah, it makes you think though, right? I don't know, I guess. It makes you think honestly. Like for example, last year it was Satoshi, right? And his aunt. What if they triggered that as well, right? They injected Satoshi to be L5 and then killed her aunt, or killed the aunt, right? And then on the third, I think it was the third year, right? It was Rika's parents' time. So Rika's dad, he had a heart attack, right? While the mom, she was gone. She just vanished basically, right? So what if it was also Takano in the Mountain Dogs, right? And then on the second year, it was Satoko's parents, I think, right? If I'm correct, it was Satoko's parents. So maybe it is connected, but yeah, we cannot be sure about that unless they actually tell us, right?
ですが、その可能性もあります。意味が分かりづらいですわね。どうして富武さんや高野さんを殺した人がさらにリカも殺さないといけませんの？
Oishi thinks Takano is a culprit. Okonogi thinks that Irie is the culprit. Either way, it sounds like someone from Tokyo is trying to kill me. I can't tell if it's Takano or Irie, but I do know that to them, I'm like a trump card. In order to explain everything, I'd need to talk to them about the relationship between Hinamizawa, Tokyo, and the Irie clinic. I don't think they'll believe me. It's such a ridiculous story. But who would ever believe it if not my friends?
話せばみんな巻き込まれますです。いいのですか？
いいに決まってるぜ。リカちゃんが巻き込まれた時点で、すでに俺たちも巻き込まれているんだからな。
Everyone nodded at Keiichi's words.
では、話しますです。
I'm going to see how everyone reacts. I'm going to ascertain what friendship is all about. With a nod of my own, I opened my mouth and began to explain.
ひなみざわにはある特別な病気があるのです。
Okay, Rika's gonna explain it to us fully.
その病気の名前は仮なのか正式なのかわかりませんですが、ひなみざわ症候群と呼ばれていますです。
Everyone glanced back and forth at each other when I mentioned the term. They never heard of it before. The Hinamizawa syndrome has been around since before the war. It's the general term for severe homesickness and mental instability that people from Hinamizawa experience when outside the village. Oh. People in Hinamizawa have refused to leave the village since the era of Onigafuchi. The villagers believe that they'd be cursed when the Oyashiro-sama if they left, and the people who did often came back because of that curse. Oh, okay. In general, it used to be thought of only as severe homesickness. But during the war, soldiers from Hinamizawa become mentally deranged in faraway places. That does sometimes happen in war. Also, you can explain why... No, confirmed. I guess, remember when Rena, she left, right? They lived here and then she left. And then when she was outside Hinamizawa for a long time, she... what do you call that again? She was getting, kind of deranged, right? She was breaking windows, etc. Right? So, okay. But yeah, why doesn't it happen to other people though? For example, why not her parents then, right? Why is it only Rena, right? Her parents lived in Hinamizawa. Then they left, right? But they came back. Rena came back afterwards. But yeah, why didn't the parents have any of this though? Like, is it some people have it, some people doesn't have it? One doctor became curious about these cases and studied those soldiers. That's when they found out that it was actually a disease only found in Hinamizawa. According to this doctor, their strange behavior was not the result of their culture, it was a mental disease triggered by external circumstances. A mental disease with an external cause is different from a psychological illness. It's the result of some kind of physical disorder and it causes people to become mentally unstable when something triggers it. There are three categories of externally caused mental diseases: traumatically induced, substance abuse induced, and chemical imbalance induced. Traumatically induced disorders are cases resulting from damage to the brain from trauma or infection that influences the mind. This is the reason personalities can change as a result of a head injury. Okay. Substance abuse, as the name suggests, refers to the cases where drugs, especially alcohol or stimulants, have influenced the mind. The last category is chemical imbalances. These cases where some ailment in the patient's body causes abnormal secretions of bodily chemicals, which then influence the brain's functions. This may sound odd, but it's been said that people tend to become depressed when they have a cold. We've all experienced the ways in which physical sickness can cause a buildup of negative emotions. However, with chemical imbalances, the cause is more direct. People's emotions aren't born from hearts. Everyone should know logically that they're the result of chemicals secreted by the organs in their body as necessary. So when the organs operating the secretion of those emotional controllers malfunction, it causes them to secrete abnormal amounts. The thyroid gland, for example, secretes hormones that regulate emotions. When that gland is defective, the balance of those hormones become unstable. This can cause people to have not only physical weakness but also a mental sickness such as depression. People don't get mentally ill just because of mental problems. Human beings are made out of meat. We get mentally ill when that meat is defective. The doctor studying Hinamizawa syndrome also came up with a theory. He suggested that there is a pathogen endemic to Hinamizawa that, if its host stray too far from home, affects the chemical in their brain and causes them to hallucinate. The village believes in Oyashiro-sama is certainly related to this endemic disease. People in Onigafuchi village knew about this syndrome. They knew that they couldn't survive outside the village. They also didn't want anyone else to enter the village because they would get infected too. They took this disease as a curse and not a sickness. The most significant symptoms of this disease are antisocial behavior and an extreme persecution complex. The eventual suicide caused by the defects in the lymph nodes are also another unique characteristic. The unusual behavior of terminal patients is what inspired the legend of the demons coming out of the swamp and attacking the villagers. Basically, sick villagers developed severe persecution complexes and wound up killing other villagers. After a long time, survivors of the disease started to comprehend its rules. They discovered that the disease is incurable once you contract it. So I guess once you enter Hinamizawa, you pretty much get it already. Like you have no choice. It is there. Do we have actual, like for example, is it a bug or is it just like, yeah. It would be like nice to see or like horrifying, right? If it, for example, is like a leech that goes into your body, goes into your brain, right? But yeah, I think it's just something you cannot see, but it is a disease, right? That's why they started barring outsiders from entering the village. Also, once you become ill, you will begin developing a persecution complex. This can happen to anyone in the village. The doctrine of Oyashiro-sama says the blood of humans and demons was mixed together and that Oyashiro-sama has control over the violent blood of the demons. People said that you'd be cursed if you didn't follow Oyashiro-sama's curse. Or rules, I mean. That could also be understood to mean that as long as you followed Oyashiro-sama's rules, you could cope with this endemic disease. Like it's not gonna get worse, right? This is what was meant by the scripture in Oyashiro-sama's legend, that they said that they appeared, unified the humans and demons and made them live together in this village. Then there was the most important part. The rules to prevent symptoms from appearing. Those rules are taboos and people were strictly taught that the Oyashiro-sama would curse them if they broke those rules. The horrible bloody traditions of the village were probably performed in order to force people to respect those taboos. There are several ways to keep the disease under control, but there are two main conditions for doing so. The first one is to prevent suspicion. When the villagers are suspicious of someone, it can trigger their persecution complex, which can lead to them developing terminal symptoms. Okay, it makes sense now, right? When Keiichi was being suspicious of, I guess, Rena, or what do you call it? In chapter 1, basically, right? Rena, Mion, etc., right? Like it's you are gonna get much more worse, right? That's why they made sure to have such a tightly knit community so that people wouldn't suspect each other. And Rena as well in chapter 6, right? Yeah, when she was being super suspicious to everyone. Since the terror of Oyashiro-sama's curse is emphasized, and many don't know this, but she's also a god of marriage and neighborly love. However, this condition is not as important as the other one. Indeed, Oyashiro-sama isn't even recognized as a god of friendship in Hinamizawa anymore, and is only worshipped as such in Okonomiya's Hirasaka district. Now, for the other condition. This one is much clearer and practiced more strictly. If villagers leave Hinamizawa, they will fall ill quickly, proportional to the distance from the village. So villagers nowadays will not get sick as rapidly even if they leave town or even go out of the country for a long time. Why? What? Okay. However long ago, they would fall ill as soon as they left the village. It is very unfortunate that Keiichi got infected so soon after he moved to the village. it was also very unfortunate that he got sick just because he left the village for a few days. Okay, so yeah, I think I said this back then, right? Like I was thinking about, yeah, like maybe because he left, right? I don't remember when I exactly said this, what chapter, but yes, because in the beginning, in chapter 1, right, when we basically started the game, right? Keiichi, or we started in a train, if I'm correct, right? Keiichi going back to Hinamizawa, right? Because he was there for a relative's funeral, right? And yeah, I remember when Mion was asking like for board games and stuff like that. So it triggered for Keiichi when he left for the first time. For a long time, I guess. Let's say a week, right? Few days. That's why Hanyu felt so bad for him that time and kept on apologizing over and over. Although no matter how much he apologized, he never heard her voice. This turned into a long discussion, but these rules etched around Oyashida-sama's curse represent the ancient wisdom of how to cope with the Hinamizawa syndrome. Is there any way to use his mental disease for military purposes? The aforementioned doctor insisted there was, but the military didn't listen to him at all. They were interested in developing a weapon that could make a dramatic change to the war efforts. They didn't have any money to spare for the research of this strange disease. In this way, research on Hinamizawa syndrome was abandoned. Then the war ended. Japan started its reconstruction under American leadership. However, some powerful people in the political world didn't want to accept the American way of thinking. Some of them were fired by the GHQ, but they still stayed on as advisors to the government since Japan was a culture of respecting the elderly. Eventually, a political organization was formed, the object of which was to restore Japan to the way it was before the war. In the beginning, this organization was a very small group. It was just a gathering of 2 or 3 individuals who shared the same ideals, blowing hot air at a restaurant. Those 2 or 3 hit it off with each other and grew to the size of a class reunion. The group became rather a sizable organization, eventually becoming a political one. Well, it would be more accurate to call them a secret society. This secret society eventually came to be called by the name of the place where it was based, Tokyo. There are many mysteries about Tokyo. One thing I knew for sure is that it was composed of old men from Japan's political stage, ones with strong power to indirectly influence the government and vast assets that meant they could work from the shadows. They were also connected to various corporations, and their goal was to return Japan to the way it was before the war. What, you want to go back to that? I mean, I guess. Of course, that was a pretty ridiculous goal. It was nothing more than an idea in their minds, and immediately after the war, back when they were still bowing their heads to the occupation forces of those white barbarians. Once Japan's post-war reconstruction began, Tokyo steadily became a shell of its former self. But it didn't really totally become a shell, it called the fat. Japan regained its peace. And years passed. But yeah, if you look at it, right, Japan today compared to the Japan back then, right, it's so different. I mean, right? Like, I guess some people maybe would want to go back to that, but yeah, it's so different. I mean, Japan regained its peace in years past. However, some people still continue to believe that Japan had been better before the war, and they were determined to return to the country to those times. I wonder though, if Japan didn't change, right? Like, for example, even after the war, Japan still is still like that. I wonder though, like if Japan is like this modern, better place today. if they didn't change, I mean. So this Tokyo plotted how to restore pre-war Japan from many angles. They approached the problem economically, internationally, and militarily as well. Japan has no nuclear armaments due to the 3 non-nuclear principles. In other words, this country has to be brown-nosed America as long as they hold nuclear weapons. The number one priority of Tokyo is to be independent from America. They want this country to be on equal footing and to obtain a weapon of a mass destruction that isn't nuclear in nature. That was the reason they started thinking about utilizing Hinamizawa syndrome. So they're gonna use this as, for example, bombs. If they can take this disease, right, and then put it to an what? Use it on another country to make the people there crazy? Is that it? However, they couldn't study the disease openly. In order to utilize this for military purposes, they had to hide the existence of the disease itself. So they enlisted one young researcher, Yosuke Irie. I need to make it clear that Irie isn't some far-right supporter of the secret society. He's just a young, capable doctor and an earnest researcher. He published an innovative thesis, but other academics thought he was too radical. However, that convinced Tokyo that he was the only researcher suitable to study Hinamizawa syndrome. As someone young and ambitious, Irie was thrilled to take on the project of studying this rare disease with a large budget, a large staff, and his own facility. But researching the disease would mean that he'd end up infected too. No one would want to take on such a dangerous research. He really was too young. With his other option being wearing down his youth, working hard at night, a shift for the local practice, he wanted to answer the expectation of the sponsor who carefully selected him. In the end, Irie was able to uncover that, as hypothesized, the Hinamizawa syndrome was a unique infectious disease, and he developed both treatment and vaccine. Irie was extremely talented. The Irie Institute was formed to study the disease. Irie was nominally the head of the organization, but Tokyo still sent out a supervisor because when all was said and done, he was just a researcher. So I guess the supervisor was Tometake? Is that it? Takano. Okay, Takano was the supervisor. Takano's job at the institute was to act as a go-between for Tokyo and Irie, manage the research progress, and preserve its secrecy. The latter was the most important part of her project, or her job. She had to do her best to prevent people from finding out that Irie was researching the disease, or even that the disease exists at all. The Mountain Dogs were formed for that purpose. They were under Takano's command, and their job is to prevent the Institute's secrets from being discovered. The Mountain Dogs are one special forces unit specializing in unconventional warfare and owned by Tokyo with its vast influence on SDF. Tokyo had set their eyes on the likelihood that a small elite squad of covert operatives would be a trump card in the anti-nuke era. So they vigorously investigated those options. This was a worldwide trend. Since the Cold War, everyone avoided sending troops directly to their enemy doorstep. Japan was also trying to be part of that world. As a result, by 1983, even the police have been forming secret special forces units. Prefectural Police Squad 2, the ones who intervened when Rena laid siege to her school, changed their name to Zero Company and grew into an anti-terrorism squad that handled the hijacking around the Kansai airport area. Okay. The National Police Agency, Squad 6, was formed as a counter-terrorism squad for the Narita Airport 2, and they later changed their name to the 7th Company as well. They theorized that in a world where nations possess nukes, they can't use small elite special forces disrupting metropolitan areas would be the new way of waging war. So in 1977, they developed the SAT's predecessor, the Special Task Force SAP, to serve as a national police agency trump card in securing the peace. Likewise, Japan's Coast Guard established their Special Task Force, the SST, in anticipation of unconventional warfare on the coast. There are several known Special Forces units in Japan. When they hear the phrase like Special Forces, most people think or tend to think of a movie or a comic book. However, these units actually exist and are protecting Japan in secret. During the famous incident of suspicious boats off the coast of Noto Peninsula, the news reported that the helicopter squad trained in gun battles was headed there but was recalled because the suspicious boats sank, but that was because of the Coast Guard's SST acted. However, the news never mentions the SST or any other special forces unit. All of these units were established after Tokyo made a suggestion about it to the government. Researching military tactics under the name of peace and order worked perfectly for Tokyo. But since the mid-century, anti-war movement made people resent those forces, these special units have been kept secret as of 1983. Furthermore, these units are not allowed or all formed under the jurisdiction of the police. There are still many other military units that kept secret from the average citizen. The Mountain Dogs are actually one of those special units. They specialize in kidnapping, espionage, and preserving secrecy. You might as well call them an assassination unit. They were around during the dam conflict as well. So I guess it was the Mountain Dogs who kidnapped the, what do you call that, the politician's son, right, back then in the conflict. Tokyo worked to put an end to the dam project because of the impact it would have on Erie's research. The Mountain Dogs, oh yeah, see, were the ones who kidnapped the Minister of Construction's grandson. Most people believed that the Sonozaki family was at the center of the movement, but in reality the Mountain Dogs were responsible for many of the things the Sonozaki were accused of. But yeah, the Sonozaki just, I guess they took it, right? Like it actually helped them like boost the popularity of the family. In that sense, the existence of the Sonozaki family was an advantage to the dogs. Yes. They took credit, they took credit. And their main job after the dam conflict has ended has to continue keeping the disease hidden from the public. With the spread of information networks in the modern age, the media jumped onto any unusual incident and quickly aired it to the whole nation. Tokyo doesn't want the disease to be known nationwide since they're trying to utilize it for their own purposes. The main task of the Mountain Dogs is to kidnap people suffering from Hinamizawa syndrome. They pose as gardeners, but in actually they patrol the village to make sure nothing strange happens. They're the ones who demon away people who go missing. Oh, okay. So yeah, Satoshi was taken by these guys. And then Rena's mom as well, right? She was missing, so she got taken by these people as well. They're probably also involved in some of the mysterious deaths too. The last important person is Jiro Tomitake. I don't know his real name. He was an auditor who was sent from Tokyo 4 times a year. He came to check on the progress of the research and outlined requests from Tokyo. He discussed the research budget with Irie too. He also got the observation report on Irie from Takano. That was his purpose. Irie started out by studying the autopsy results of dead villagers, and he discovered many answers from that. In 1979, the Mountain Dogs kidnapped the culprit behind the murder of the construction thief. He was a terminal patient of the Hinamizawa syndrome. The nature of the disease was dramatically clarified. Oh, so it was only one guy who did that to the construction chief? The research made rapid progress after that, and they discovered a vaccine, medication, and other methods of treatment for the disease. At the same time, they continued to investigate how to utilize it for military purposes. One of the interesting findings of the research was the pathogen can only be found when the patient is still alive. On top of that, they couldn't detect the presence of the pathogen at all unless they used a certain inhumane method. Let me guess, like opening the head? Because yeah, Like in the brain, right? Like you see hallucinations, so it's connected to the brain. In other words, it's virtually impossible to detect pathogen by normal means. It's left almost no trace, and the unusual symptoms it produced seem like voluntary behavior, so they concluded that the disease could be used to their advantage. However, Tokyo has been going through some changes. It's been almost 50 years since the war ended. The leaders in the shadows behind Japan's government, who ruled from the center of Tokyo, began growing infirm and opening up seats, steadily passing their leadership to the new generation. The whole organization has started to shift. Of course, the purpose of Tokyo has stayed the same. It's still a secret society of ultra-nationalists who want Japan to be at the top of the world. However, their ambitions to start a war with America and take over the world has diminished. Tokyo has directed its priorities towards the economy, international affairs, and education. That doesn't mean that those ambitions are gone entirely, however. Several seniors still alive retain those ambitions. Tokyo continues to finance the military research, but for the present-day Tokyo, Irai's research is actually something of an embarrassment. The new Tokyo is no longer interested in his project, and they announced that they're gonna cut their budget as soon as those seniors pass away. Oh, okay. However, Irai objected to that plan. He strongly appealed for the continuation of his research. This is what Okunugi was talking about, Irai's disagreement with Tokyo. Irai's research has been making great progress. They discovered various treatments and testing methods, and even starting to develop a treatment plan for the whole village. If they cut his funding, Irai's research would end without any results. Tokyo had a discussion with Irie through Tomitake, and they decided to shut down his research partially but not fully. However, they told him to immediately stop researching military applications of the disease and destroy all research data related to that. He had little interest in weaponizing the disease anyway, so Irie accepted those terms right away. Tokyo probably believed that it was better to let him find a cure for the disease than to terminate the project entirely. So what does Sekano want though? What does her faction want? So I guess for the other faction, they want it for military purposes, is that it? If they want to weaponize it? At this point, Irai considered himself one of the villagers. Perhaps exterminating the disease is infecting the villagers without their knowledge is his way of atoning for his using the village to advance his research and reputation. Both Tokyo and Irie agreed to fully terminate his research as soon as he discovered a way to completely eradicate the Hinamizawa syndrome. Irie made a plan for the next 3 years, and he promised them that he would find the resolution by 1986 at the latest. The meeting they had this June was to discuss the plan and the budget for the next 3 years. Oh yeah, they were mentioning this. I remember. Which brings us back to the beginning. One theory goes that Irie is in opposition with Tokyo, and as his trump card, he's planning to kill Rika Furude. The other theory is that Takano killed Tomitake, and her trump card, she's going to kill Rika Furude. I suppose I need to explain why Rika Furude can be the trump card. Yes, this is the one. Why? Why do they need to kill Rika? The answer to that lies in the ancient traditions of Hinamizawa. Supposedly, members of the Furude family have the blood of Oyashiro-sama in their veins. I explained earlier that Oyashiro-sama was made up as a method for having people cope with the disease, but however, that's actually not true. For the demons, the pathogens to survive, a certain being must be present. That being is the successor of the Furude family line. The truth behind the advent of Oyashiro-sama and the coexistence of humans and demons is that Oyashiro-sama was actually the queen of the village. According to Irie's research, Rika is adored by the whole villagers, not only because she's a charming little girl, but because she's a queen carrier. Oh. So basically like in a colony, right? Even an ant colony? Like the queen is the most important one, right? Infected patients are unconsciously driven to protect their queen, yes? So what happens if the queen dies then? Irie says that this is done with pheromones. Rika Furude's mom was also adored by everyone since she was little. However, as soon as she gave birth, people's attention quickly shifted to Rika. Irie calls it the succession of the throne. The queen is a precarious existence of people in this village. There are theories that the carriers of the disease are actually unable to survive when away from the queen. So when she dies, not from the village itself, Irie's research indicates that the queen can only survive in Hinamizawa, and infected patients can only stay alive when they're around her. But this is just a theory. Surprisingly, however, the doctor who first discovered the syndrome was also aware of the existence of the queen. The doctor was knowledgeable about Hinamizawa's culture, and he was interested in how much value the villagers placed on the Furude family. He theorized that a queen lying in the Furude bloodline might have the power to manipulate the whole village. The truth is still unknown, but perhaps the Furude family really has held such power since ancient times. Miraculous power that would make them perfect for serving in the priesthood. Although the only thing Rika can do is be doted upon by the villagers. If all this is true, the question is what would happen if the queen disappeared from the village? During the war, our doctor prophesied that if the queen were to die, then all the infected would show terminal symptoms, so all of them would go crazy, and the whole villagers would be wiped out. He advocated for the strict preservation of the queen's host. Oh. So now, the third chapter makes sense, the ending there, right? When Rika died, I guess a lot of people became crazy, right? So what happened there is the reason that they said in the news, right? They had a news there. The reason they said is it was a natural disaster, but in reality it was not. I guess all of the soldiers were there to kill the people, right? I think that's it. Okay, that makes sense now. Yeah, that's why when the host dies, the queen dies, they need to pretty much wipe everyone out now. Rika is important to Tokyo not only because Irie found many answers after running tests on her body. So why does Takano want to kill her though? I guess Takano doesn't want this disease anymore? I don't know. I don't understand still. For Takano's faction, if Rika Furude dies, the 2,000 people in Hinamizawa will turn into demons. It would happen too fast for the people to even realize that they're getting sick. They will each be overcome with a violent persecution complex and start killing each other out of fear. This is why the mountain dogs are protecting the queen Rika Furude. Her death spells the end of the whole village. That's why Rika is a trump card for those who don't know or who know that she's the center of the whole epidemic. So that's why she is very, very precious. This is the story of Hinamizawa. Our tale begins in June 1983. Tokyo's liaison, Tomitake, was found dead of the disease even though he was vaccinated against it. On the same night, Takano was also kidnapped and murdered. Though I don't know for sure if she's really dead or not. Rika Furude is also going to be murdered soon enough. While I suspected Irie and Takano, this was my first time doubting Tokyo. I always thought that they were on my side. They had to be. My death would lead to nothing but disaster. At the same time, there might be people within Tokyo who could use my death as a trump card. I never considered that there was opposing factions within Tokyo. I guess I was naive to not realize that Tokyo had internal problems due to the generation gap. Anyway, I wouldn't be feeling this way if I didn't suspect that Takano might still be alive. I feel like I'm starting to see the greater picture. It's possible too that Takano is a victim and Irie is the bad guy. The mountain dogs might be on my side, or they might be assassins who are trying to kill me. I was too scared to choose a wine that might be at risk of having something poisonous mixed in. In which case, I could rest assured with a fresh and open bottle even if it was a little bad. After telling everything to my friends, I finally realized that I could only trust them and the police. I'm really dumb. I thought I was thinking so hard, but I never actually understood anything. After all this time, I made things clear just by talking about them with my friends. I never thought it would make such a big difference. Okay. But yeah, that was pretty cool though. Explained everything to us basically, right?
Me.
That was very long, but it explained everything.
僕の話はこれで終わりなのです。
As I thought, everyone was staring at me with their mouths open in shock. Even Oishi wouldn't believe a story like this. That's only normal. I am sure I sound like a crazy person.
さとこ、僕たちが毎週診療所に研究のお手伝いに行っていますですよね。あれは入江の研究に協力しているだけではないのです。さとこの治療のためでもあったのです。
そうだ。そういえば、さとこが病気みたいなことを言ってたよな。
私がリカの話なら私だけじゃなく、この村に住むみんなその怪しげな病気にかかってることになるんじゃありませんの？でも、どうして私だけがお注射しなくちゃいけないんですの？監督の作っている新型の栄養剤の実験じゃないんでございますの？さとこは、一度、末期症状を迎えてしまっているのです。だから、日に2回のお注射がないと、すぐに症状がぶり返してしまうのです。入江は、さとこを救おうと、特に熱心に研究してくれていました。でも、毎日2回の注射をしなくてもいい体には、どうしても戻す方法が見つけられなかった。でも、いつか見つけると意気込んで、今日も熱心に研究を続けてくれていますです。冗談じゃないですわよ。私たち、貧乏だから監督の怪しげな研究に協力してお金を恵んでもらってるんじゃありませんの？あんな注射、一生やるなんて冗談っぽいでございましてよ。
Sadako looked upset that she had been completely ignorant of all of this. She also didn't want to accept the reality of having to manage her condition. Her fake laughter suddenly echoed in everyone's ears. Keiichi opened his mouth to speak.
その注射を1回でもしないと、あの日みたいになるんだな。
Oh, sorry. Oh my god, what is he saying? There was a day where she forgot to take her shot. Okay. She convinced herself that the principal was her uncle. Also that day, okay. Her fear escalated and she thought her uncle came inside the school to take her back home. Once she feels that way, there's no turning back for her.
そうです。だから、僕はさとこがお注射を忘れないように、毎日しつこく言っているのです。 そんな、信じられませんわ。大体何なんですの、末期症状って。私だけそんなの嫌ですわよ。どうして私が、いつそんな末期症状になったって言うんですの？
Sadeko's face contorted as the tears began to flow from her eyes. I shouldn't have said this. Sadeko is starting to remember something she's not supposed to.
ごめん、さとこ。思い出さなくていいのです。あれは事故なのです。さとこは何も悪くないのですよ。嘘ですわ。嘘ですわ。リカは全部嘘ばっかりなんですわ。
The others probably had no idea what Sadeko was talking about. They don't need to know. They don't want to know about it because they're her friends. Rena gently touched Sadeko's shoulder. She gently touched mine too.
私たちはリカちゃんの話ちゃんと信じてるよ。ありがとうです。そして今まで自分一人でよくそれだけの大変なことを背負ってきたね。リカちゃんは偉いよ。たった一人で今日まで人に言えない秘密を背負ってきたんだね。
I never thought Rena would say something like that to me. My eyes were filling up with tears.
人に話せない秘密を背負うってのは悲しくて重いよね。私のはリカちゃんに比べたら全然大したことないけどさ。少しはわかるつもりだよ。
そうですね。お姉もよく頑張ってます。お姉になすりつけて楽させてもらってるからよくわかりますよ。
みんなは僕の話を疑わないのですか？
どうして疑うんだよ。全部信じるって言ったじゃねえか。むしろ村の秘密が解けたような気がして俺はすっきりしたくらいだぜ。そのHINAMIZAWA症候群という病気は感染症で村に住んでる人はみんなかかってるのかな？
はい。みんななのです。でも昔とは違います。鬼ヶ淵村の頃に比べるとこの病気はとてもおとなしくなりましたです。
It's much weaker now.
だから別に遠くへ引っ越しても平気ですし、旅行だってへっちゃらなのです。
ただしものすごく低い確率で発症するってんだろ。俺怖くてもう村を出られねえな。
I guess as it says here, some, right? That's why people can survive even if they move far away. But some people get sick. So that some people is, yeah, Keiichi, Rena, right? Because they left the village, right? And then, yeah, they pretty much got sick. For Keiichi, it was, I guess, as much, it was very, very little in the beginning. Then it got worse, right? And then I guess for Rena as well, right? But it was not at the level of like Sateko's, right? At least like you look at them right now, right?
もし病気にかかっても簡単な心構えで病気は抑えられるのです。
Yeah, you can still control the illness yourself because for Sateko, it's pretty much much more farther, right? That she needs injections every day, I guess, right?
それはとても簡単だけど難しいこと。
If you think you might be suspicious of someone, don't be. Continue to trust in them. When you become too suspicious of someone, that suspicion will degenerate into a persecution complex and it will be too late. So long as everyone stays friendly and united, we will never have to worry about this disease. This disease starts with anxiety, modern people don't believe in curses the way people long ago did. That might be why we're more tolerant to the disease.
なんだ。なら私たちは全然平気だね。
だな。俺たちは仲間で、部活メンバーで、家族なんだぞ。間違っても仲間を疑ったりするもんか。だからリカちゃんの話、俺は丸ごと信じるぞ。そんなヤバい話をすれば、俺たちがその山犬って連中に消されるかもしれないって思ってずっと言えなかったわけだろ。
I nodded quietly. I don't want to think that demonic dogs have bugged this room. But if Okonagi hears this conversation, they definitely will kill not only me but all my friends tonight. But yeah, they bugged this room, right? Because yeah. Or did they bug just the phone? But if they did, yeah, everyone is done now. That's true, no matter who my enemy is.
ま、だとすると、すぐに部活メンバーは臨戦態勢に入った方が良さそうだね。状況を整理しよう。リカちゃんを殺すと大惨事になると信じてる連中がリカちゃんの命を狙う可能性がある。間違いないね。
可能性でなく、必ず殺しに来ますです。どうかな。リカちゃんが切り札ならそんな簡単に切っちゃう？そうでございますわよ。切り札は殿下の宝刀。抜かないうちが花ですもの。
Sadako's eyes were so swollen, but she had stopped crying.
甘いですね、さとこ。切り札は2枚以上あるときに限りすぐ1枚切ります。そうだね。人質は複数で初めて成立する。一人の人質の価値は複数の時に比べて格段に落ちるからね。
とにかく向こうの状況がさっぱりわからねえ以上、殺されないなんて楽観はありえねえな。
みーちゃんは山犬って人たちをどう思う？敵かな？味方かな？
それは問題じゃないだろうね。僕は善良な狼ですって人に羊の番を頼むかい？
疑わしきは黒でございましたよ。その東京とかいう連中と全く関わりのない人たちに助けを求めた方がいいですわね。
だな。その意味ではリカちゃんが即警察に応援を求めたのは迅速ないい判断ってことになるぜ。大石さんは俺たちの味方なんだよな。
はい。大石には全てを話してはいませんので、僕の命を狙っているのを連続開始事件の犯人、つまり村人の誰かだと信じてるようです。大石さんにも真実を話した方がいいと思うな。大人の力は重要だよ。リスクのある一手ですわね。かえって嘘くさくなって手を引かれるとまずいんではありませんの？
いや、大石さんには話そう。あの人今年が定年で昔殺された友達の仇を討つ最後のチャンスだって言ってた。だからきっとどんな嘘くさい話でも信じてくれると思うんだ。
うん。大石さんは聡子ちゃんを助ける時にも警察の立場でありながら私たちに協力してくれた。頼もしい味方になってくれると思うな。
よし、大石には話そう。で、大石は今はしょ？
いえ、 岐阜に行っています。高野の死体を確かめに。
But yeah, he's gonna come here though, so I guess we just gotta wait, right?
ああ、岐阜の山の中でしたっけ。ドラム缶の中で黒焦げった話。でもなんでわざわざ大石ともあろう人が直々なんでしょうね。
高野の死体が違う可能性があるらしいのです。岐阜が協力的じゃなくてあやふやなことを言ってるらしいです。
その山犬って連中は機密保持と情報操作が仕事じゃなかったっけ。私はなんだかその死体おかしいなって思うね。というかあの人おとなしく焼いたくらいで死ぬとは思えないんだよね。
もちろん入江が黒幕で高野を殺した可能性もありますです。山犬のおこのぎはそうだと言っていますです。
監督が黒幕ってことはねえだろう。あの人は悪い人じゃねえと思うんだ。
そうですわよ。目と意と動発言禁止にしてくれれば基本的にはいい人でございますのよ。
私もひなみざわファイターズの幽霊マネージャーとして監督は黒幕なんて玉じゃないと思います。どっちかというと利用される感じの人です。いい人すぎるというか。
はあ、誰も高野さんの肩を持ってあげない。
いやさ、監督と高野さんどっちが悪い人ですかって聞かれたらなあ。
高野さんが聞いたら怒りますわね。
Everyone laugh as though we're in the middle of club activity, right? No, what do you call this? No danger sense or nothing like that, right? Like they are in a very, very bad situation right now. What if the mountain dogs were listening to them, right? But here they are laughing. It's very possible that they'll get all involved in this mess and they know that they could still laugh is really significant, I think. I started laughing along too.
客観的に見て高野さんだけ岐阜で死体が見つかるのがすでにおかしいよ。富武さんを殺した風に偽装するなら死体は絶対に見つからないところに隠す。山中で野焼きなんて見つけてくださいって言ってるようなもんだもん。
うん。レナもそう思うな。警察の管轄の及ばない県外で見つかった身元の確認しにくい焼死体を高野さんということにしようとしている気がする。その山犬って人たちはそういうのが本職なんでしょ。
なら構図が見えてきたぞ。山犬ってのは高野さんの部下なんだろ。山犬の隊長は監督が黒幕なんだって主張してるんだろ。高野さんと山犬ってのはグルだな。
富武さんのあの死に方は監督が殺したと思わせるためなんですわね。そしてそれがわかるのは東京だけ。そして本当の黒幕の高野さんの死体も見つかり、監督は東京に2人を殺したことを疑われて濡れ衣を着せられる。なるほど、これはなかなか凝った罠でございますわね。詰めがいまいちでございますけど。
その濡れ衣ってのにも山犬って連中が関わってそうだね。
なあ、そうと分かったら監督に直接話を聞いてみないか。その方が早いぞ。
そうだね。監督が真実を話してくれるか嘘をつくか、私目を見ればわかるから。
ああ、レナさん嘘に敏感ですよね。
入江は山犬が監視していると言ってましたです。電話しても出られないか話せないかかもしれませんです。
なんだなんだ、聞けば聞くほど監督は濡れ衣臭いぞ。というか監督の身に危険が迫ってるんじゃないのか。
うん。私が山犬で監督に濡れ衣を着せようと思ったなら、余計なことを言われる前にご退場願うね。
死体に口なしだね。どうしよう。大石は岐阜の話が終わったらすぐに戻ってくると言ってましたです。だから時間は分かりませんが今日必ず来てくれますのです。
As everyone glanced at the clock. It was already past 6:30 p.m. and starting to get dark.
なんだか腹が減ってきたと思ったらこんな時間なんだな。
We'd usually call it here if this was a normal day, but everyone decided to stay until Oishi came back and discuss what to do.
ごめんねリカちゃん、電話借りてもいい？お父さんに帰りが遅くなるのを電話しないと。
そうだな、俺もお袋に電話しないとな。
あ、私もばっちゃんに今夜は出前でよろしくって電話しないとな。こんな時間に抜け抜けとそんなこと電話したら後でこってり絞られますね。あと警察の人たちの夕食も考えてあげないとね。本家のツケで寿司でも頼むかね。
Everyone had a sensitive reaction to the word sushi. Their stomachs were empty after all. The same should be true of those officers too.
リカ、うちも出前にしますの？そんなお金の余裕はありませんでしたよ。さとこ、みんなに自慢の野菜炒めでも作ってあげたらどうですか？無理ですわよ。こんな大勢になんか作ったことありませんわ。
さとこの野菜炒めか。指さえ入ってなけりゃぜひ食ってみたいな。
レナもさとこちゃんのお料理久しぶりに食べたいかなもしもし、フルでなのです。
Is it Oishi?
よかった。ご無事のようですね。大石です。岐阜の用事を終わらせましてね、今沖宮に戻っている途中です。途中のガソリンスタンドから電話しています。
それで高野の死体はどうでしたか？
やりましたよ。やっぱりそうでした。
So they got it. He found it and it's not really Takano's body.
岐阜の資料がとんでもないイージーミスをしていました。連中間違いを認めやしない。ガツンと決めてやりましたよ。高野は車ごと行方不明です。富武殺しについて何か事情を知っている可能性が高いと判断し、つい先ほど高野の捜査を開始するよう指示を出したところです。ついにお社様のたたりの尻尾をつかみましたよ。ここから一気に引きずり出しちゃいます。
Oishi sounded so motivated. He'd finally found the hint he did so desperately wanted. Could he actually solve the case though?
それは土産話がとても楽しみなのです。
これからクマちゃんと一緒にそちらへお伺いしますので、詳しい話を聞かせてください。心当たりでもうさんくさい話でも何でも結構です。
はい、僕も 全部話す決心がつきましたです。
おやおや、どんなお話が聞けるのでしょうかね。多分あと1時間ちょいぐらいでお伺いできると思います。ところで、受話器の向こうが賑やかですね。お友達も来ているのですか？
はい。みんな心配してうちに来てくれましたです。
そうですか。皆さんは本当に素晴らしいな。私も皆さんと一緒にいてくれた方がいいと思います。賑やかなだけで犯罪の抑止効果は大きいものです。では今から向かいます。後ほど。
今の大石さんか？
はい。今から刑事と2人で来るそうです。はあ、この部屋にこんなに大勢なんて初めてだね。何人になるんだろう。私たち6人に2人来て8人ですの？
So is it Oishi and Kumagai?
床が抜けそうで怖いですわね。
Plus Hanyu there. I forgot about Hanyu.
9人目なのです。羽生、聞いてた？なんだか今回は本当にすごいことになってきた。今回はいけそうですか？うん、いけるわ。絶対。絶対という言葉はなって当然、ならなければ失望する悲しい言葉ですよ。羽生はこの状況になってもやっぱり今日死ぬと思う。でも死んでほしくないと思っていますのです。あんたのスタンスは分かってるわ。傷つきたくないから信じない。マイナス思考ならマイナスで当然、ラッキーなら大喜びってわけだ。もうあんたと私の考え方の違いをとやかく言わないわ。あんたは見てなさい。傍観者らしく。
Damn.
はい、僕は傍観者ですから。でもリカを応援してますですよ。応援か、ありがとう。でも応援していいの？応援したのに負けると期待を裏切られない？リカが意地悪を言いますです。
We had a rather harmonious mood going. However, a feeling of unease was beginning to settle over us. Oh my god, that was a very long chapter, but that was very nice though, right? Because yeah, Rika pretty much explained to us what the disease is, the Hinamizawa syndrome, right? She explained fully, right? And that was insane. I love it. I love it. They explained to us that yes, if you leave the village, you may activate the syndrome, right? The disease. That's what happened with Keiichi in the first chapter, and then Rena as well, I guess, when she was out, right? No, when she was not living in Hinamizawa, she was feeling like hallucinating and saying some stuff, right? I mean, we saw this in the other chapters. I just forgot what chapter it was, but they did mention that, and yeah, I love it. I love it when games finally explain it to you, right? Like fully explain it to you. And that is pretty cool. So the only thing we don't know now is what is Takano's goal, right? Yeah, that's the thing that I didn't understand. Like, what does she want though? Like, does she want to, what do you call it, weaponize this? Does she want to get rid of this? Yeah, maybe we'll see when we finally confront her, right? She's gonna come here for sure. So, and yeah, and it's nice that she explained also why Rika was special, right? Because she's the queen carrier, and if she dies, everyone that has this Hinamizawa syndrome will basically go berserk, right, and kill everything. So that explains in the third chapter why there were a lot of people that were dead, right? And what they said there was, oh, it was a natural, what do you call it? A natural disaster. Like there was a volcano in the swamp, right? And then I guess it was poison or something like that, right? Poisonous gases. But in reality, it was different. They pretty much, I guess, purged everyone after that happened, right? When Rika died. So yeah, it explains it why there were a lot of soldiers here. And not that excuse of natural disasters and stuff. So that is, it's just good. It's a nice feeling hearing this, right? So yeah, we're gonna continue this and do more of Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 7 and Minagoroshi in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye bye.